Reaction is now pouring in after the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. I'm Caroline Shively outside the court. I'll have more on that story coming up.
Plus, what the decision means here in Kentucky. We'll break down a trigger law that went into effect the minute the Supreme Court ruled.
And it's all about the heat and humidity this week, and as storm chances make a return. We're going to have more on that weekend forecast ahead coming up.
Live from Lexington, our home, your news. This is Fox 56 News at 6:30.
Good evening. Reaction continues to pour in after this morning's historic Supreme Court decision to overturn the landmark abortion case, Roe v. Wade.
Our team is standing by all across the state to break down what this means for women right here in Kentucky. And this is a live look outside the Supreme Court in Washington. The crowd is full of people both cheering and jeering the decision.
Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively is in D.C. as today's decision is set to make abortion likely illegal in at least half of the United States.
The streets here around the Supreme Court were packed within hours of today's decision. Now the city and the nation are reacting, including the president.
The conservative majority of the Supreme Court shows how extreme it is, how far removed they are from the majority of this country.
President Biden condemning the ruling, calling it a sad day for America. The highest court in the land ultimately decided a Mississippi law that forbids abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy is constitutional. The decision led to a mix of emotions from pro-life and pro-choice activists outside the Supreme Court.
I knew it was coming. What we need to do as women, organize, don't organize, organize.
Today's the first step in America becoming a nation that values preborn lives, that has equality for women. I'm so freaking excited!
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle also reacting.
Today is one of the darkest days our country has ever seen. Millions and millions of American women are having their rights ripped away by a MAGA, hard-right Supreme Court.
I would love to see abortion ended in the United States.
The ruling doesn't completely outlaw abortion. It leaves it up to the states to protect or restrict abortion rights. Missouri became the first state to invoke a trigger law banning all abortions minutes after the ruling. 16 states plus D.C. already have legal protections for abortion, and 26 states are likely to ban or restrict it going forward. Congress could still pass a law concerning abortion. A Senate panel is scheduled to hold a hearing on the issue next month. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox 56 News.
Reaction from both sides came in quickly in our state capitol.
Fox 56's Bodie Brooks joins us live with the political side of today's ruling. Bodie.
That's right, guys. Yesterday in Kentucky, what was once considered a right in the state is now considered a felony. Just behind me, it's been a bit of a quiet scene here at the state capitol. There are 3 women that say they are here protesting the decision that was made in Washington. I've seen a handful of cars driving by, honking their horns at them in solidarity as well. In 2019, the General Assembly passed what's known as a trigger law, banning abortions if Roe was ever overturned. The Attorney General says this morning's decision makes abortions illegal in Kentucky immediately.
Abortion is, for all intents and purposes, over here in the Commonwealth.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court didn't outright ban abortions, but decided it was not a constitutional right, leaving it to the states to decide. In Kentucky, that decision is already made.
This is what happens when you don't care about politics. Because politics affects every day of our lives.
Democratic Senator Reggie Thomas believes the ruling is a call to act. 2019's Human Life Protection Act made Kentucky one of only 13 states with the mechanisms in place for a trigger law to be immediately implemented. One Kentucky's governor is calling extreme for having no protections for rape or incest, saying in part, "As the former chief prosecutor of Kentucky, I know that these violent crimes happen, and not having options for victims of rape and incest is wrong." In a joint statement, Kentucky's pro-life caucus representatives Robbie Mills and Nancy Tate said, lawmakers have adhered to the constituency's desires, doing their part in preparation for this moment. To be clear, the law makes it a felony to perform an abortion, not receive one.
We now enter a new era, and a new era calls for a renewed commitment. We must continue to advance and advocate for legislation that stands up for the babies who cannot stand up for themselves.
I would say it's time for women to act. You know, this decision today returns women to second-class status, and
That's dangerous.
Now, Cameron's office has released guidance on what's legally permitted now in the state moving forward, and abortion can proceed if the life of the mother is at risk. It also clarifies there is no ban on contraception and no penalty if a mother does receive an abortion, regardless if that happens out of state or she miscarries. I'll have more details for you coming up at 7. For now, live at the state capitol, I'm Bodie Brooks, Fox 56 News.
There are many organizations that were watching closely and expecting this outcome from the Supreme Court.
Danielle Miskell is standing by at a rally in downtown Lexington. She spoke with organizations on both sides of this issue about what this means to them. Danielle.
Yes, Marvin Amani, when I spoke with the ACLU of Kentucky as well as the Kentucky Right to Life Association, you know, they may have opposing views, but they both use the same word. That was emotional. Today has emotional ramifications for women in Kentucky.
And our client, EMW Women's Surgical Center, has closed its doors as of this morning.
The ACLU of Kentucky says this decision to overturn Roe v. Wade is, quote, a forced pregnancy by the government.
This is not about babies. If it was about babies, we would have universal health care. We would have universal pre-K.
And if anyone has an abortion scheduled,
their appointments will have been canceled.
Cooper says outlawing abortions only prevents women from having safe abortions.
People will attempt to self-manage. People will travel out of state. People will do dangerous things. Wealthy people will always have access to abortion. The people who are going to be most affected are folks who are already disproportionately affected, people who live in poverty, communities of color.
But pro-life organization, the Kentucky Right to Life, says they are feeling joyful and now have an opportunity to change the narrative.
For 50 years, we have wept for the 64 million lives that have been lost to abortion.
Adia Wushner said for the past 50 years, Roe v. Wade has placed women at opposition to their unborn children.
This thought that a child, a life, is a barrier to a future.
And in Kentucky alone since 1973.
296,000 abortions in the last 50 years in the Commonwealth. That number equals 9.1 elementary schools filled of children in Kentucky a year were eliminated.
Now today's Supreme Court decision has kicked it back to the state, where both parties are getting ready to galvanize their efforts as early as next week.
We'll be filing a suit in state court as early as next week.
It continues, we'll be in court on Monday on House Bill 3 in Frankfort.
I also spoke with the Kentucky Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice about the resources that are still going to be available to women who had abortions scheduled, but those are now null and void. So stick around with us. That news report is coming up at 7 o'clock. But for now, live in Lexington, Danielle Miskell, Fox 56 News.
All right, Danielle, thank you. And now here is a closer look at that rally happening right here in downtown Lexington. As people gather to protest today's Supreme Court ruling, you can see a crowd of people. They're all holding signs, some chanting. Many have been out there for more than an hour. As Danielle just said, our team coverage will continue tonight on Fox 56 News at 7 and at 10 with reaction from the rally as well as from those cheering the decision.
The most recent data available from the Kentucky Department of Public Health shows that more than 4,100 abortions took place in Kentucky in 2020. The majority, almost 3,600, happened before or during the 12-week gestation period, and 3,200 of the abortions were by women 20 to 34 years old.
Politicians from across the nation and right here in Kentucky are reacting to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Senator Mitch McConnell issuing a statement saying, in part, the Supreme Court's landmark ruling is courageous and correct. This is a historic victory for the Constitution and for the most vulnerable in our society.
Senator Rand Paul also issued a statement on Twitter which read, quote, "This Supreme Court decision is a monumental step to not only protect life, but also for the court to finally correct the mistake it made and return governance back to the people and their elected representatives."
Kentucky's Democratic Party also sounding off on today's ruling, saying, quote, "To the women of our Commonwealth who with the news today are outraged and worried, know you are seen, you are heard, you are loved. While the court has rolled back rights that have been yours for almost 50 years, we will not stop fighting."
Turning to weather, temperatures are on the way back up as we head into the weekend, and the need for some rain gets more pronounced.
Let's see how hot it might get and if our yards might get a drink. Here's Chief Meteorologist Chris Johnson. Chris?
Yes, guys, I believe there is some good news in the forecast as far as some rain and storm chances for the weekend. Much needed as far as rain is concerned, but it's going to be steamy out there as we look ahead for your Saturday and Sunday. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Few of the high clouds streaming across the area right now, but we've had a good dose of sunshine through today as well. And overall, it's been warm out there. We officially topped out at 91 degrees. Right now, sitting at 89 degrees. Dew points remain in check, so overall, that feel out there is not too bad. Upper 80s to right around 90 for many spots across central and eastern Kentucky. And you look at the muggy meter, most of us in the Pleasant area, and that's going to continue through this evening. But again, changes are heading our way. Nice and dry as we scan those skies. And as far as your evening is concerned, eventually dropping off, cooling off through the 70s by late evening, eventually hitting those 60s by tomorrow morning. And then it's all about heat, humidity, and storm chances for the weekend. Details on that forecast ahead coming up.
Thank you, Chris. Buildings destroyed and roads blocked as an early morning fire erupts in Monticello.
Still ahead, what we learned after crews contained the flames.
You're watching Fox 56 News. Our home, your news. This is Fox 56 News with Marvin Bartlett, Imani Payne, and weather with Chris Johnson.
Part of downtown Monticello will be closed until further notice after an early morning fire caused heavy damage to buildings near the Wayne County Courthouse. The Wayne County Fire Department reports that a fire broke out shortly after midnight, quickly destroying two largely vacant buildings on Main Street and causing fire and smoke damage to a third building and the courthouse. Officials say the fire was under control for a while and then reignited after 3 a.m. Multiple fire departments responded. The general manager at radio station WKYM shared these pictures. He told us the buildings had housed attorneys' offices in years past, were empty now except for some apartments in the back. Police say detours will be in place until at least Monday. Investigators are trying to determine a cause.
Cleanup continues in Millersburg tonight after a devastating fire earlier this week that damaged several buildings. The U.S. Postal Service will set up a mobile unit on 5th Street across from the post office that was destroyed in that fire. That unit will start operating 6 days a week beginning Monday until the post office finds a new permanent home. Kentucky's Cabinet for Health and Family Services confirming today the first case of monkeypox reported in the state. The case, which is in Jefferson County, brings the nation's total to 201 cases since the first case was confirmed by the CDC in May. Kentucky's Public Health Commissioner Dr. Stephen Stack says while identifying a case is concerning, the risk to the general public remains low.
And the heat and humidity ramp back up this weekend as our next system brings storm chances back to the forecast. We're going to have more on storm timing and those hot temperatures ahead coming up.
On the go, stream Fox 56 News live on your phone and watch wherever you are. Now, your forecast from Fox 56 News, the weather authority.
Alrighty, folks, chalk it up. Another 90-degree day here in Lexington, officially topping out at 91. That moves us up to 8 days so far for the season, and only 4 days away, or 4 days away at 90 degrees or better. That would be the total for last year. So, yeah, we're quickly catching up to the total 90-degree days we had last year, and it won't take much longer just because there's plenty of heat showing up in the extended forecast, especially as we look ahead to next mid and late week. Right now, we have some cloud cover out there, but we've had a good deal of sunshine through much of today, and it's been warm out there, but overall, dew points remaining in check in the 50s, so the muggy meter has been a little lower out there, at least making things tolerable. Right now, upper 80s here in the metro, many locations hanging out in the middle and upper 80s to right around 90 degrees in many spots. As far as satellite and radar is concerned, we're nice and dry, so we're not talking about any rain chances. But again, our northwestern skies, we're watching some of those mid and high level clouds stream in, and that continues through this evening and overnight tonight. You can see the area of cloud cover from a decaying complex that's working south and eastward. Now, it doesn't bring us any rainfall, but the cloud cover will stream across our area. Here's the next system, this cold front. That's what we're watching as we look ahead into the weekend. That brings more rain and storm chances back into the forecast, at least more widespread, as we look ahead late day Sunday and into your Sunday night. As far as tonight is concerned, into your Saturday morning, most of us staying dry tonight. That's good news. Now we get into your Saturday, bit of a different story. It's hot, it's a little bit more humid, and some isolated pop-up showers and storms will be a possibility. Not washout conditions, but if you're out and about, something to keep in mind if you do have any outdoor plans. As far as temperatures are concerned, heating up. 93 for your Saturday. A few storms will be a possibility. Low 90s once again Sunday, but those showers and storms on a scattered basis becoming likely. And that's some good news because really things getting pretty dry around here. We could go for a little bit of rainfall across central and eastern Kentucky, and this cold front could deliver just that. Notice into your Sunday evening, scattered showers and storms will develop ahead of this front and continue to push towards the east and southeast Sunday night. And as we get into your Monday morning, the big picture showing just that too, that cold front bringing some welcome rain. And some of those could be on the stronger side, bringing not only the threat for some heavier rainfall, but some gusty winds as well. Now in behind this system, some cooler air, cooler brand of air trying to show up into early next week. Look at this, high temperatures, upper 70s, low 80s, the jet stream taking a dip to our south and east. Not bad, but you better enjoy it while you can because 90s return pretty quickly into next midweek. Tonight down to 66, some passing high clouds, that's it. Low 90s for your Saturday. And again, some isolated pop-up afternoon showers and storms will be possible. More of the same for your Sunday, more widespread chances showing up. We're going to dry things up into your Monday afternoon. Cooler early next week, but notice upper 80s and low 90s making a return next mid and late week. That's a look at weather. Here's Michael with sports.
Hey, Chris, thanks a lot. Well, you're a hooper, you know. The NBA draft is where dreams come true for young hoopers and happens pretty frequently for guys with University of Kentucky attached to their names, especially in the first round. 2 more this year brings John Calipari's total to 34 first-round picks. We tell you more about these 2 young men's destinations next in sports. Stay with us.
Scan the QR code on your screen now and download the Fox 56 News app. Sponsored by Absolute Services. Now, Fox 56 Sports.
With the 29th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Ty Washington Jr. from the University of Kentucky.
Come on, Silver. You had 28 picks to get it right, and you messed it up on 29. But it's all right. What a moment for Ty with that pick, then being traded to the Houston Rockets. So he is headed down to Houston. The 29th overall pick is, of course, not where he envisioned himself going. He was once a lock to be a lottery pick, getting a lot of buzz in the first half of last season. He really peaked in January, had that 17-assist game on January 8th when Xavier Wheeler was injured. Then a week later, he had his season-high 28 points at Rupp Arena against Tennessee. But a week after that, he injured his ankle in the Auburn game and just wasn't quite the same after that. He came back quickly and had some good games, especially in the SEC tournament with a couple games of 25 and 17 points down in Tampa, but struggled in that tournament game against St. Peter's. And that was it, an anticlimactic one-and-done year for Ty. But he was still a strong Wildcat and goes into the NBA with a crafty skill set, one that can make the Rockets feel like they might have got a steal.
Every player wants to, be a top pick, high pick, and stuff like that. So as I was following me, I wasn't really stressing about it. It only takes one team to believe in you, and you can go out there and shock the world. So that's kind of my mindset on it. Always bet on myself, so I'm just gonna go out there with a chip on my shoulder and just remember all the teams that skipped me.
Now, Kentucky's other first-round pick, Shaedon Sharpe, who did not suit up for the Cats this season, but technically he still counts. He dropped 24 points per game in his high school junior season, reclassified and came to UK. He could have balled out here in Lex, but he sat out, and Portland could be getting a star. We don't know, but it's clear that this guy has a lot of talent. So we will see. We'll hear from him tonight at 10 o'clock. Now, to the future Cats, Chris Livingston, among a number of guys, oftentimes at Kentucky, the incoming basketball freshmen take all the headlines, especially the 5 stars, Oscar Tshiebwe especially. But Chris Livingston, among a number of guys that are going to be making some headlines this year. SEC assist leader Xavier Wheeler's coming back. C.J. Frederick suiting up for the first time. But Livingston was a finalist for the Gatorade High School Basketball National Player of the Year Award. So he's going to have a big-time season here with freshman Cason Wallace. We'll hear from him at 10 o'clock as well, guys.
All right, getting exciting already.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're headed back to the 90s.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of steam this weekend, guys. Heat, humidity, and then some storm chances as well. Some isolated pop-ups possible Saturday. More widespread chances will show up for your Sunday.
All righty. Thank you. News at 7 up next. See you then.
Bye-bye.
deeply emotional issue that's divided the country for nearly 30 years. The Supreme Court ending constitutional protections for abortion.
This is amazing!
Tonight, how Kentucky is reacting to this historic decision. We're also digging deeper into the numbers surrounding this controversial issue, using real data to answer key questions. Our Roe v. Wade coverage continues right now.
Live from Lexington, our home, your news. This is Fox 56 News at 7.
We begin tonight at 7 with a live look at a rally underway in downtown Lexington. Abortion rights supporters are gathering outside the district court building. Several hundred people are at the rally, organized by the Kentucky Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. One of the most emotionally charged topics in the country taking center stage tonight, the Supreme Court's decision to strike down constitutional protections for abortions, sending shockwaves across the nation and right here in Kentucky. The decision expected to lead to abortion bans in Kentucky and about half of the states in the U.S. The ruling comes more than a month after the leak of a draft opinion by Justice Samuel Alito, indicating the court was preparing to take this step. Reaction coming from all sides tonight, from the streets to the White House.
This is amazing. This is probably the best day of American history in my lifetime. This is incredible, and thank God for all the people who've been fighting for 50 years.
Let me be very clear and unambiguous. The only way we can secure a woman's right to choose, the balance that existed, is for Congress to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade as federal law.
The Supreme Court's ruling today pushes the issue of legalizing abortion back to the states. In Kentucky, pro-life lawmakers have been preparing for the Supreme Court ruling for some time. Capitol reporter Bodie Brooks has been in Frankfort all day long learning more about Kentucky's so-called trigger law. Bodie.
That's right, Imani. Reactions have been pouring in from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle all day long. Just behind me, a small group of protesters has been standing here on the Capitol steps, protesting the decision made by the Supreme Court. A handful of cars have been driving by this evening, honking in solidarity. Some sharing stronger feelings on this issue today because Kentucky is only one of 13 states with the so-called trigger law, meaning the debate over the future of abortions in Kentucky is already done.
In Kentucky, in particular, abortion essentially ended today. And we know that women will die and children will be sentenced to a life in poverty.
Representative Josie Raymond says she feels grief and righteous anger. Friday's decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade already rippling into Kentucky.
Kentucky is one of several states that has enacted legislation that would automatically take effect once Roe was overturned. The legislation protects babies from all forms of abortion. So as of this morning, except where the health of the mother is at risk, abortion is no longer lawful in the Commonwealth.
Attorney General Daniel Cameron applauding the ruling and releasing some guidance on Kentucky's trigger law now in effect. Kentucky's Human Life Protection Act makes it a felony to perform an abortion in the Commonwealth, but not to receive one. That can only happen with limited exceptions.
You may see going forward a very small number of abortions performed in hospital settings because we do have that one exemption to save the life of the mother or the functioning of a vital organ.
But that's it. Governor Andy Beshear calling the 2019 law extremist for no rape or incest exceptions. But much of Kentucky's majority pro-life General Assembly calling it a victory. Representative Nancy Tate, who sponsored this year's bill targeting abortion-inducing medications, said the Supreme Court has given the power back to the states to decide, which is how it should have always been. From this moment on, states have the power to choose whether or not to uphold the sanctity of life.
Kentucky has some of the most extreme anti-abortion laws in the country, but I don't believe that they're stopping here.
Representative Raymond has a different view and shares much of the pro-choice worries this could open the door to limiting things like birth control. She hopes both parties can find common ground with what she calls family-supporting policies. A similar tone echoed by the Attorney General.
I want to make sure that folks know that we now have to have empathy and compassion and recognize that we need to connect children with families that want these children.
And the pro-life work by the General Assembly is not yet done. In November, there is a constitutional ballot question asking voters if abortion is not considered a constitutional right just in the state of Kentucky. Additionally, some of the abortion laws that came out of the session this year, such as House Bill 3, Cameron's team will be going back to court asking judges to lift some of the orders blocking the enforcement of those laws. Live at the state capitol, I'm Bodie Brooks, Fox 56 News.
Bodie, thank you. So the question now is, what does this mean for women here in Kentucky? Our team coverage continuing with Danielle Miskell. She's live in downtown Lexington at a rally where the impact of this decision is being debated. Danielle.
Yes, Amani, women across Kentucky right now, they're asking a lot of questions, especially the women who are being directly impacted by this decision and just had their abortion appointments canceled effectively this morning. What do they do now? Well, I spoke with two organizations on opposing sides who are both offering some guidance. The Kentucky Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice says it supports a woman's right to choose.
These are decisions which should be based on a woman's own religious convictions.
They say the statistics show how abortions can actually save a woman's life in one way or another.
Childbirth is 14 times more likely to cause death to a woman than an abortion would be. Almost 2/3 of women who have abortions are already mothers. This is very often a decision that a woman is taking with her whole family in mind.
Now they're worried about women having more difficulty accessing abortions and want to spread the word about resources women can still tap into here in Kentucky.
The Kentucky Health Justice Network, they maintain a hotline, and you can find the phone number for their hotline on their website, AFund Inc. But that's one that does its funding directly to the clinics. So if a woman shows up at a clinic in another state without sufficient funding, the clinic knows to call on AFund for some funds to help.
But on the other side are women standing by, wanting to comfort women considering abortions.
But there are so many pregnancy care centers in every county, and they've been there all along for women who are struggling, and they've wanted to be there all along for women. They've been there in prayer.
And let women know that there are ways to make it work with the fathers.
You have to find a way to parent apart, but to be there, because the most important is that life.
Adia says as a mother herself, she wants women to know unborn babies are precious, and there are women who can help them through the birth and possibly the adoption process. And those on both sides want women to know that they do not have to make these decisions alone. We're going to have links to those various resources available to you on fox56news.com. Live at downtown Lexington, I'm Danielle Miskell. Imani, back to you.
All right, another warm day out there for our Friday. Seeing some clouds beginning to stream in as we work into the first part of this evening. Now, temperature-wise today, upper 80s and low 90s winning out once again. Thankfully, the humidity, the dew points remaining on the lower side, so overall the feel out there at least tolerable. So good news there. 85 right now here in Lexington with some of those clouds streaming in. We're seeing 80s and upper 80s to around 90 in some spots still for the first part of this evening. But looking at the muggy meter, things for the most part still pleasant out there despite the warmer temperature readings. The good news is we're nice and dry as we scan those skies. We're going to stay dry as we work through this evening. Temperatures going from the mid 80s, cooling off into the low 70s by late evening and into the first part of tonight. 60s by tomorrow morning. But folks, steam and storm chances. That's what the weekend's about. We're going to talk more about that with your full forecast here in just a bit.
Chris, thank you. The issue of abortion drawing passion from both sides. In our Fox 56 Focus tonight, we'll try to cut to the core of the issue and the impact of the Supreme Court's decision on the Commonwealth.
You're watching Fox 56 News. Our home, your news.
Welcome back. We are continuing our coverage of the Supreme Court's historic decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Joining me now to talk about that is UK political science professor Dr. Stephen Voss. So thanks for being here today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this ruling is stirring up a lot of emotion for people on both sides of this issue, one of those being confusion. So for those still trying to understand this, can you break it down for us? What does this truly mean?
In terms of legally what it means, the Supreme Court took a fairly aggressive step against abortion rights. They could have ruled in a way that only upheld Mississippi's 15-week ban on abortion and scaled back Roe v. Wade, the abortion rights decision, without totally overruling it. But they chose to go the whole route, overturn Roe v. Wade, and pass to the state governments, or possibly Congress, regulation of abortion, taking it out of the Constitution.
And what possible changes might we see taking place in the coming days as a result of this decision?
Well, the immediate impact will be that many states have what are called trigger laws, anti-abortion laws that go into effect once Roe v. Wade gets overturned. And so those laws are going to be taking effect in the next 30 days. So we'll for sure see changes in the legal environment faced by abortion in a large chunk of the country, roughly half of the country. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we'll see a massive change in the number of abortions that take place, because on the other hand, there have been states that are dominated by pro-choice governments that have started getting ready to accommodate what they expected to be a rush in people who would travel seeking abortion access.
And what will be the implications for women here in Kentucky?
For sure, having abortion be illegal in some states means that if you want to obtain abortion, you're likely to have to travel. It's unclear how far you'd have to travel, but you'd probably have to travel. So the end result will not so much be that people couldn't get access to abortion, just that the expense, the cost is going to go up. And that means the poorer you are, the harder it would be to exercise abortion rights, or the right to choice. And the wealthier you are, the more it's going to just mean maybe inconvenience and a little more expense.
Sure, and we heard President Biden say it during his press conference earlier today that Roe v. Wade is on the ballot this fall. So what will that ruling mean come election time?
This Dobbs decision, this shift in abortion policy, is really the issue Democrats have been looking for. They've been flailing around trying to find an issue that would let them gain traction. This could be harmful for the Republican ability to hold together their coalition and get their people to the polls. For a lot of Democrats, abortion is an issue that they're saying makes them more enthusiastic about participating in the election. So we're likely to see more turnout from Democratic voters as we see maybe less from Republican voters in the federal elections. Politically, it's hard to see how this helps Republicans. Very easy to see how it's likely to help Democrats.
All right, something to watch very closely. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Good talking to you.
And for more information on the Supreme Court's decision, head over to our website. That's fox56news.com.
And those steamy conditions return this weekend as our next system brings storm chances to the forecast. More on your weekend ahead coming up.
And we'll go live to the Supreme Court. Up next, reaction from lawmakers and the possibility of future rulings by the court.
On the go, stream Fox 56 News live on your phone and watch wherever you are.
Welcome back. Now let's go live to the nation's capital as lawmakers and the nation react to this landmark decision, which is expected to lead to abortion bans in roughly half the states, including Kentucky. Our Washington correspondent Jesse Tenor is live outside the Supreme Court. Jesse.
Imani, this was the expected ruling following last month's leaked draft opinion, but it still sparked very strong responses today from both sides. Like the court in the country, Washington is split over the U.S. Supreme Court's decision Friday to overturn its decades-old Roe v. Wade abortion case.
The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
It will save the lives of millions of children.
President Joe Biden called the 6-3 ruling that revokes women's constitutional right to abortion a tragic error.
The court's decision to do so will have real and immediate consequences.
About a dozen states have already passed so-called trigger laws that now outlaw most abortions.
It's a slap in the face to women.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said it hits especially at the poor and people of color. She and other Democrats in Congress, like Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, said they will continue to push to pass federal laws to restore abortion rights.
It matters who we elect in this country, who are going to stand up for our rights or take them away.
Many Republicans, though, including Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson, cheered the ruling and have staunchly opposed abortion rights legislation.
Abortion violence is the #1 killer of children in America until today.
Johnson and others, like Missouri Congresswoman Ann Wagner, called on more states to take advantage of the ruling.
And swiftly pass protections for our vulnerable babies.
And conservative Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in a concurring opinion that the court should also revisit decisions that currently protect contraception, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage. Live in Washington, I'm Jesse Tenor.
Now, your forecast from Fox 56 News, the weather authority.
Yeah, another warm day out there for our Friday. Back into the low 90s. Once again, that is above average for this time of the year. Should be checking in around 86 degrees. And I tell you what, we look ahead to the weekend, there's more heat, more humidity showing up, and some much needed rain with some storm chances that we'll try and work in, especially for our Sunday. Right now, we have some mid and high level clouds streaming in across central Kentucky, and that's a trend that continues through this evening. But overall, we're going to stay dry, temperatures warm, but humidity remaining in check. Right now, 85 degrees, dew points in the 50s, so the muggy meter, it's down on the lower part of the thing, so that's good. That's what we want. But again, it's rising quite a bit for the weekend. Temperature-wise, many locations hanging out in those 80s to near 90 in some spots. You can see a decaying complex diving in from our northwest, just bringing us some cloud cover out there. That's about it. And of course, that will continue to pass through as we work through tonight. Here's our next system, though. This cold front is going to drop into town for our Sunday, late day Sunday, bringing widespread scattered showers and some storms back into the forecast. Speaking of storms, chance will be there as we head into the first part of this weekend. Saturday afternoon, it's hot, it's humid. Some isolated boomers, certainly a possibility, not a widespread event, not a complete washout, but something to keep in mind if you do have any plans outdoor tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow evening. High temperatures, hot, low 90s Saturday, more the same Sunday. Scattered showers and storms becoming likely, but notice the percentages there. Up to 60% for those rain and storm chances through your Sunday night. And then look at this, low 90s into the low 80s by early next week. And it's all because of this cold front that arrives into your Sunday afternoon, passing through the area into our Sunday night. Scattered showers and storms will be likely ahead of this front. And then in behind this front, here comes the good stuff as far as the humidity is concerned, taking a nosedive once again with temperatures going below average. But you better enjoy it while you can, because as we look ahead into early July, once again, more heat trying to show back up above normal temperatures look like a good possibility as we kick off the new month. For tonight, down to 66, passing clouds expected. It's dry. It is milder. Temperatures, of course, in the middle and upper 60s. Low 90s for highs tomorrow. Isolated PM showers and storms will be a possibility. Again, not washout conditions for your Saturday. Sunday, bit of a different story, especially late day into your Sunday night. Turning much cooler and drying out early next week. Low 80s Monday, Tuesday, upper 80s Wednesday, low 90s, and some storm chances once again as we look ahead towards late next week. Amani, over to you.
Chris, thank you. Passions have run high for nearly 50 years for people on both sides of the abortion issue. But what do the numbers say about it? We dig for answers when we come back.
Scan the QR code on your screen now and download the Fox 56 News app. Sponsored by Absolute Services. This is Fox 56 News with Imani Payne and weather with Chris Johnson.
Today's Supreme Court ruling carries with it intense emotions from both pro-choice and pro-life supporters. While covering that part of the story, we also wanted to try to cut through that to look at some of the data surrounding the issue. The Pew Research Center is a nonpartisan fact tank that researches issues and attitudes. In its most recent survey in May, it says it found 61% of U.S. adults say abortion should be legal all or most of the time, while 37% say it should be illegal all or most of the time. How many abortions are there in the U.S. each year? There are two organizations who track those numbers. The latest numbers from the Centers for Disease Control show that in 2019, there were more than 629,000 abortions in the U.S., up from 2018. The other organization, the Guttmacher Institute, says in 2020, there were more than 930,000 abortions, up from 2019. So how about the demographics of women who had abortions in 2019? According to the CDC, 57% of abortions were for women in their 20s. 85% of women were unmarried. Only the District of Columbia and 29 states report racial and ethnic information to the CDC. Of those, 38% of all women who had abortions in 2019 were non-Hispanic Black. 33% were non-Hispanic white, and 21% were Hispanic. All right, how about a quick look at that weather?
Yeah, it's going to be steamy with some storm chances for this weekend. We'll see high temperatures in the low 90s. Storms becoming likely for our Sunday.
All righty, sounds good. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again at 10. Have a great night.